indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so roll call, and since we all haven't met each other, just give a short little introduction of who you are and what you like to do in the community and for work. So I'm Mark McAllister. I started swimming in the Lebanon pool in 1969. That's just a little guy, and then I was a lifeguard there back in the 70s. And I did my adult life swimming, competition swimming, and I'm self-employed, and just like being in my home. Grew up in my
What's your position
position.
here?
What do you do? What do you do at Fuller?
Oh, I guess I'm the board of shares. So
Thank you.
for another month or two. Okay, Jeremy.
Jeremy Gunther. My favorite hobby in Lebanon is ham radio, as part of emergency service and stuff. I'm a board member.
Kim.
Kim Hitchell, I live in Lebanon. I am a budget manager for a large company. And I don't have any free time to do anything like that. I'm sure I would like to do extra. I am the vice chair of the board and
Lori.
I'm Lori Dennis, and I've just had aquatics in my whole life. Worked at pools, swam in pools, dove in pools, came to this pool, and I want to save this pool. And I'm on the board too. And I lead the fundraising committee. Okay.
Okay, hey.
Yes, I'm Peggy Snyder. I've been on board, I think, going on 10 years. I teach, offer aerobics class, 3 mornings a week. I also teach, water jogging, the morning Rose does it Tuesdays and Thursdays. I've been at the pool for 20 years now, coming to do all these exercise classes. I love it. My kids were all swimmers, lifeguards. I always say I have chlorine in my blood.
Okay, and since this is our budget committee meeting, we have our appointment members, and thank you for being here. Darla.
And Darla Bowman, I've been at the pool probably almost 20 years. We moved to Lebanon, went to Oregon, about that same time. We came to Lebanon, met Gus, who was running the pool at the time. Because my number one requirement was I do water aerobics and I need a pool. Wherever we go, it's got a pool. So I share the support of the pool, and I know everyone in here does. They all love the pool and want it with their feet. The help with that.
And here, yeah. Mike. Good.
Mine is on vacation.
Okay. Do we have Mike on Zoom?
Not yet.
We have at present later someplace fishing.
Okay. Lynn.
Hi, I am Lynn Schwagel. I'm a retired registered nurse. I swim at the pool and have been for about 2 years, and I've lived in Lebanon about 3 years.
Thank you, Lynn. And Perry.
My name is Kurt Cadigan. Hi, everybody. I've been in Lebanon since 1986. Been swimming ever since then. I was part of the group in 2000 that worked to get tax base passed for the pool. We knew at the time we needed more revenue to keep it going. I'm a swimmer. Been swimming 4 to 6 miles for the last 12 years a week. The pool is something that is very familiar to me and important to me. So I've been practicing often the whole years.
Thank you. Okay, so we have election of budget committee presiding officer. So this is something that we need either Darla or Terry to volunteer.
Well, okay, you could be in,
Or could be anyone.
you don't have to.
Okay. I
It's
just-
gonna be nominate somebody?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I just remember your stuff. When I was on there, girls drinking.
We were punking you.
Okay, so, okay, we have, you want, okay. That's fine. We will help you out. We will help you out.
Yeah, I assume it's just to go through. Okay, great.
Very well. Do we have to vote on it? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Okay, so all in favor, for Jerry, read the, thank you.
Okay, well, on the agenda, obviously, public comments are, this next step. There's, people joining us today. Do you want to share your name?
My name's Dave Vanderlick. A little bit about me. I'm a retired firefighter from Lebanon Fire District. I worked there for 26 years.
Let me give you mine, and there's another paragraph there, but I'm not sure.
Probably the last 10 years anyway, and I also like to keep the pool going.
Rose Taylor, and I agree that pool's an asset. We need to figure out how to stay open and repair it.
Well, who's chief operating officer?
That help.
I'm Chris Hengler, and all 5 of my kids went through the swimming program. My son even went on to college and swam in college. My daughter swam in college also. And yeah, those 2 lifeguarded as well. And then both of their spouse, the Wyatt and Owen's spouses lifeguarded. So, and of course, Lori's the director and she's my wife. So here to support.
And if you have comments that you'd like to share with the budget committee and board before we start?
I would propose that if there's questions or comments that people want to make as information is presented, that allow for that.
Good.
Or we could have another time for the end.
For input.
Yeah.
Well, we'll move it into, after the budget's gone through, if there's any questions. Give me the, ask everything that they need to know more about. Okay.
No,
Orly, looks like you're up.
you missed someone back here.
Oh, well, you did miss me, but,
Oh, I'm sorry.
well, I'm just Rose. I'm managing the Zoom. I work at the pool and I'm on the fundraising committee, but Mike is in the act of connecting. So I wanted to recognize that.
Okay. When he's on, you can let us know.
Okay.
Is it gonna be quick? Should we wait for it?
Mike, can you hear us? And would you like to introduce yourself? I don't see that he has audio, so.
When he comes on, we'll
Yeah.
come in and let him introduce himself.
Okay, so, Kim pointed out that her name is misspelled on the agenda, but it is not misspelled in the draft budget. So I apologize. Okay, so, I had sent out a couple things to the budget committee. One was this kind of a history of the pool and kind of, what we do to come up with a budget, and that a budget is basically a well-educated guess. Because most of you know that our fiscal year starts July 1 and goes to June 30th. And so, today is May 20th, so we still have, a month and a couple weeks of the current fiscal year that we're in. And so then, this is just basically a good guess of where we think we're gonna be and where we think we're gonna land. And then, of course, we won't have actuals until we get the audit done, which is sometime in January. So just with that kind of keeping in mind. So anyway, I'm gonna read a couple paragraphs out of the budget process here, so. The budgeting process for the Lebanon and Wyden district operates on an annual cycle spanning from July 1st to June 30th each fiscal year. A budget serves as a financial blueprint, relying on estimates of revenues, expenditures, and other financial. Additionally, it must include a balanced statement reflecting actual revenues and expenditures for the preceding 2 years, which I've done that when we get to the actual, figures. I'll point that out. At the core of budgetary authority lies the appropriations, granting permission to allocate public funds. The budget is structured around various funds, each serving as a distinct fiscal and accounting unit with segregated resources earmarked for special activities or objectives. LAB's budget comprises 7 funds: personnel services, materials and services, capital outlay, contingencies, debt service, reserve fund, and a special fund that's dedicated for the operation of the smoke club. Within this framework, resources and requirements are fundamental classifications that impact every fund. Resources encompass cash on hand and expected receipts or revenues, while requirements represent expenditures, budgetary transactions, or funds designated for future use. Alignment between resources and requirements is imperative, ensuring compliance with governmental accounting practices and local budget law. And again, like the fact that we're meeting in May and we allow for public comment, we have a budget committee, and then we have a budget hearing later in June. I mean, all of that is mandated by the state of when we have to have things, ready to go.
Mike is all set.
Okay, I can pause and then Mike can introduce himself.
Mike, go ahead and unmute yourself.
All right, I am unmuted.
There you go.
Hello.
Hello.
Mike, how you doing?
Doing fine.
Thanks for coming on, and I know you're on vacation. It's great that you, took the time.
Yep, absolutely.
Go ahead and introduce yourself, Mike.
My name is Mike Karsner. I guess that's about it.
Your relationship to the pool?
Oh, I've been a member of the pool for about 2 years now, going on 3. So I go about 3 times a week, swim in the morning, water aerobics.
Excellent.
Well, thank you for joining us from wherever your vacation is at, Mike.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, so the general fund serves as the primary accounting mechanism for most fiscal activities within the district. Estimating budget requirements, particularly expenditures, entails a comprehensive analysis of historical expense data, current expenditures, and forecasts of potential cost escalations. Anticipating increases in expenses, especially within materials and services and personnel services, poses significant challenges. Resources for the budget encompass a range of sources, including beginning cash or net working capital, user fees, service charges, grants, donations, borrowing proceeds, interest earnings, and property taxes from both prior and current years. Incorporating surplus or unexpected revenue into the budget is a common practice for governmental agencies. It's crucial to understand that appropriating funds merely signifies the intention to spend. Any expense not included in the budget cannot be dispersed. Similarly, surplus revenues exceeding the adopted budget cannot be utilized within the fiscal year received, as they were not accounted for in the planning process. The ending balance of the general fund represents the surplus of assets over liabilities and reserves at the close of the fiscal year. This balanced budget is carried forward into the subsequent fiscal year. Given that the budget serves as a plan and expenditures only occur if planned in advance, carrying over the general fund balance from one fiscal year to the next serves as a prudent means of resource utilization. Otherwise, surplus revenue would lack a mechanism for appropriation. The beginning fund balance is an estimated figure as the budget is formulated before the conclusion of the current fiscal year. This estimate relies on the audited financials of the previous year and projections for the current year. At the fiscal year's end, the ending general fund balance transitions into the beginning balance for the subsequent fiscal year. Since actual figures are not confirmed until the completion of the audit, these estimates are based on good faith projections. One of the primary revenue sources within the budget comprises property tax revenues, which include both current and delinquent taxes. Estimating property tax revenue necessitates a meticulous calculation process distinct from other revenue streams. This estimation involves determining the amount levied by law, adjusting for factors such as compression or discounts applicable to taxes paid in full or 2/3 by November 15th, and accounting for uncollectible amounts, delinquent taxes, while also considering the county's collection rates. In October, Lynn County issues two crucial documents, the tax summary report and the detail of district taxing levies. These reports serve as vital sources of data for determining the estimate of property taxes to be received. It's important to bear in mind that a budget is a plan based on estimates, providing the groundwork for appropriations, which is the authority to spend public funds. Appropriation essentially imposes limits on expenditure. In May, the draft budget undergoes proposal, deliberation, and review by the Budget Committee and the public during the annual Budget Committee meeting. Comprising LAD's Board of Directors and 5 appointed electors, registered voters in the district, the Budget Committee convenes to assess and approve the budget proposal. Following the approval, the committee recommends the budget for adoption by the LAD board during the budget hearing, which is held in June. Subsequently, the adopted budget is finalized and slated to take effect on July 1. And then, of course, unforeseen circumstances, whether positive or negative, may necessitate adjustments to a budget after its adoption. Appropriation transfers between funds, utilization of contingency funds, or the creation and adoption of a supplemental budget are common mechanisms employed to accommodate changes to an adopted budget. So anyways, I just kind of wanted to throw that out there so that everybody kind of understands, we're not just pulling stuff out of thin air. Okay, is there any questions so far or? Okay. Yes.
Clarification on that. You said that these numbers here are an educated guess. I think a little bit of issue with that statement, while close, but they really are educated and pattern guess, based on our meeting that we had last year.
Unfair. It's an educated guess, Jeremy. She's been doing this for 10 years or more.
I'm not attacking girls.
Yes, you are.
It's an educated and pattern guess.
And padded guess.
And the reason for padding goes back to our history, because we originally were not padding it in the state.
So it's an educated guess. Why bother with the comment? Let's move on. I recommend. Sorry, Terry. You've got that.
Well, I'm just curious, what's your concern with the educated versus not educated, or say what you say?
My deal has been, I was told to bring this up at the budget committee, not prior, which is why I'm bringing it up now. This budget indicates that we're going to spend into our our safe money, our existing money that's been carried over year to year. Now, most people know that a traditional budget, you wouldn't do that. The reason for this budget being laid out in this manner makes sense because it's what the state expects.
Requires. Required by
It's
law.
good practice.
It's required by law. And the statutes were given in the message, am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I referred to some of the statutes.
It seems like maybe if there's specific items, the budget process does involve us going through each line item of budget. Proving that this seems reasonable, this is a good idea, and this is good use of our funds. Is that correct? So are we gonna, when we go through that process, if you have specific line items that you disagree that they're off projection, or they're not even close to projection, bring them up. Give your reasons. That's the way I would view it.
Okay, I don't think I'll do that line item by line item because I'm looking at the total.
So the total number is, what's the problem with the total number? What do you?
Well, if we look at the bottom here where it says unappropriated funds plus transfer to reserve. Like, I'm gonna jump in actually wait.
Yeah, let's go through the budget, and when we get to that, that's what I was saying, let's hit each particular item on the.
I'll wait till we get to the bottom.
And then what-
concern.
Sounds good. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, the budget committee members, that's everybody here, that's the first page. Then the first thing that I do is I take those documents that I mentioned that the county puts out. And I basically estimate what I think we're gonna get for current property tax. And again, I try and guess our incomes on the more conservative side. And then I guess our expenditures on the more not conservative side. Because the last thing I wanna do is overestimate what I think I'm gonna get in. And then that's not gonna be good. So the first number is that total assessed value, that's just straight from the county. And that's all the property in our district. And so then you take out the amount that's, that goes to the urban renewal district. That's property taxes that we should be collecting, but we're not because it's inside the urban renewal. So we minus that out. And then our major 5 loss compression is actually pretty low. So we minus that out. And then I'm estimating that we're gonna see a growth of like 4%. And it's a little bit more than that usually every year. Now we know that by law, our property taxes can only go up by 3%. But if you factor in a little bit of new construction and other things like that, it ends up being a little bit more than the 3%. So I base that on a 4% increase. So then I take that number and then I figure out if that's our new assessed value, and we get 24 cents per $1,000. Then the total amount of tax that the district should get that would be imposed would be $665,676. But people pay their taxes early, and so then they get that discount. And then some people don't pay their taxes, right? So then you've gotta factor in uncollectibles, which is why, like, the county tax rate is closer to 96%. We actually have a really good track record of people paying their taxes. There's some counties in Oregon that have a lot less. So I take 94% of that amount, and that's where I come up with $625,735. So that's what I'm saying is what we're gonna see on income tax.
Is there any questions about that information? Anybody in the audience have any questions about it? Anybody?
I think that's one question. Sure.
I would.
Your, like, when do they expire?
So, I mean, we do, well, December year is from the county.
I'm just curious, like, there's like, what, 5?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, are any of them gonna fall off at some point?
Well, there's one that's new with the city of Lebanon that is gonna fall off, I think in about, what, 4 years? So then, and I added a little bit more to account for that one. So, was there a question on this?
Mike. He wants to know how close was last year's to the estimated amount.
You probably hold a copy of it, the numbers are there. Might hold up the camera for him, that'd be helpful.
It'll block out the green.
We don't have last year's because last year's, this year's. This is your year 22, 23.
2023 is listed here. For all these values.
Does he have that?
Okay, so last year, total, now we don't break it down, I mean, in past, we don't break it down from delinquent to current, okay? But for 2023, we got in 601, I'm sorry, 5. Yeah, the actual was $601,696 and change. But we budgeted $569,948. So we actually got in just about almost $32,000 more than what we budgeted. And the year before that, we got in almost $24,000 more than what was budgeted. Like, I'd rather us see $20,000 to $30,000 extra in property tax revenue rather than, be.
So your proposed budget indicates about $20,000 increase.
Yeah.
And you have several years of doing this and being very close.
Yeah, pretty close.
So that's the. Next.
Mike, do you have anything else to you?
No, thank you for answering that.
Yeah. Okay, so then the next page is my revenues page. So I have our current property taxes, again, what I think we're gonna land on or pretty close to. And then, I put in the same amount that I put in last year for delinquent taxes. So, last year for 22-23, we got in over 17,000 in delinquent taxes. And the year before that, for 21-22, we got in just over $10,000 in delinquent taxes. So, I don't know, I mean, it kind of follows the home sale market, because if any of you have bought a home, like usually your property tax gets paid off. It has to get paid off before the new owners can then take out a loan, because they gotta have a clean slate.
So like, are these, you have 17K because part of it takes previous year, so.
Well, anything that comes after the deadline of paying your tax basically is delinquent.
So would you add these 3 numbers together, or are you carrying independent numbers per cycle? So is there actually 11.5 plus 17.6?
Well, the 11.5 is just my guess.
Right.
And so like, for instance, we're pretty close to hitting that now for the current fiscal year. But the year before, for 22-23, I am not sure on the top of my head. I can tell you I didn't budget 17,000.
Yeah.
I probably budgeted somewhere between 10 or 11,000. And we got 17.
Because it could be coming from any previous year.
Right, exactly.
There's no way to actually know that either. You just.
Right.
No, I just.
Yeah, because when we get the statements from the county, some people, it'll say 2005, 2006, 2011. And it's just like, wow, like,
Yeah.
They're really old. Right, and sometimes it's like 20 cents or, you know what I mean, it's these small chunks, and then it might equal, $1,500 or something. So, okay, so we have our current tax revenue that we estimate we're gonna get in, we have our delinquent taxes, we estimate our total program revenue, that's the stuff that we sell, lessons, goggles, rec swim, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't ask her, but if it's okay.
I think we can it.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, just like you said, lesson, is it membership?
It's everything, everything that we sell or service that we charge.
So any kind of.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean goggles,
Snacks.
concessions, Snickers bars, just
right,
whatever.
but the big one would be.
Yeah, memberships, yeah.
And do you know the breakdown, like, just off the top of your head, like, where are we at with membership versus one?
Well, lessons is our huge, big, I mean, there's our biggest money maker.
Right.
Just,
And the swim club fit into that category?
no, they're, yeah, they're separate.
Okay, so I've always wondered, do swim club pay for themselves?
Well, they do, but as minimum wage keeps going up, then that is shrinking.
So if we pay whatever we pay for lifeguard, and we get 4 moms, parents, bring our kids, and we have capacity for 12. Do we look at numbers in that way, like where are we at?
I mean,
We're always full.
yeah,
Always full.
yeah.
So golden number is in here. This is assuming that.
I mean, yes, but again, we're looking at all of our programs.
Sure.
We're not just looking at, you know, and then too, for instance, like right now, like we'll talk about the financials where we are like this month, well, actually last month, because we're a month behind. So we were closed for a week in March because of the boiler and then closed for a week in April. So there's 2 weeks that we kind of were hit on our revenue, but we're still like right on track to make that 190,000 goal for this year.
Right.
So.
Some of my questions, I'm sorry, some of my questions are gonna be about, you know, where do we put energy into growing?
Right.
You know, could we do more? Should,
Yeah.
doesn't pay for it. It's gonna be that.
Right.
So that's inappropriate, just, you know, flag me.
Yeah, no, it's good, but part of the problem that we run up against is a lot of our programs are kind of hitting capacity.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And
There's only so much you,
Right.
there's so much water.
exactly, because I gotta shoehorn everybody else in there, you know,
Yeah.
and,
And we've always recognized that, right, that
right,
you have a limited, capacity. The
Right.
only thing you can do is invent more time, stay open more days, and then you're gonna pay more labor.
right, right. Well, we've tried doing lessons on like Saturday, like Saturday morning lessons, and there's so much other youth sport things going on with like soccer and t-ball and everything else that it's hard, so we ended up, basically it was more of a cost than it was a income stream.
I assume you're Lynn.
Karen,
Karen.
Karen,
Karen, hi.
I'm very, very sorry.
That's all right. Karen, you want to introduce yourself so everybody knows your name?
No, not
We all have to do that.
You're fine.
I want to hear from you.
My name is Karen Berger. I've been going to school for quite a while now, since I moved to, London. And, teach at art class. And whether I like it or not, right? I have a background in finance and degree in business. And, both in nonprofit and for profit. And I, also was involved with my, I was in, lived in the city of Cottrell for 40 years, and I was on the planning commission, the development committee, and the trees, and finally the city council. So
Well, thank you for making it. You sound like you're going to be very helpful to our process.
oh, you might get started.
We're on page, the general fund revenue at this point. Karen.
Lauren, I got one quick question.
Sure.
Looking at the fiscal year 21-22, it's 191,507. 22-23 is 242,131, and then 24 is 190. Why was there a jump in 22-23? Just out of curiosity.
Well, was the year that that nursing bought all those passes. So, yeah, so there was I mean, that was one of the things, one of the reasons, but there was a nursing home in town that bought passes for their entire staff. And, yeah, they just called us up and they had actually received grant money for like employee wellness or something. And so then they bought passes, so that was a big bump in that. So that was one of the reasons, plus, I mean, I have to go back and look.
What year were you talking about?
The 22, 23.
Well, yeah, after COVID, our lessons really went up.
Right. Right, yeah.
And so our lessons just really spiked. I mean, we're back in as many lessons and.
Membership has few, the long numbers after COVID.
And we started doing daytime lessons,
Yeah, well, we did.
but
Well, more in earnest.
Yeah.
I would just comment, somebody was from the school district.
Yeah.
I was in a conversation probably, I think, a month ago. And so we got meeting with the school district at the time about getting assigned as their wellness center. And we did not have water property that I felt comfortable with that. Different these days, you don't have to walk in, but if we're not on the school district, you know, anybody, you can come and use your wellness hours.
Yeah, well, we do, like, we were approved with Samaritan, like, their employees can use their wellness dollars to buy passes here.
What about the school district? Do you guys still lock your wellness dollars to specific vendors?
We don't have the.
Yeah, would you be interested in being part of the pool as your?
You're gonna sell me tonight.
That's right.
There are some school, charter schools that are operating school, they will all pay for swimming lessons and swim club and those.
And you guys have done a great job, so slippers, about all that, but I know there's more than one employer in town that locks their wellness.
Yeah.
So you have to go appeal and make that conversation.
Yeah, well, we've already been approached by, what's that, not 1840 South Restaurant, what's the?
fitness
Oh,
1440.
1440.
Oh,
The-
wow.
Oh, yeah, we've already had talks and stuff, so.
I've always appreciated, I swim in a lot of different pools around Wichita, Oregon, Central Oregon, wherever I go, somewhere they're kind of pool. And your prices are competitively lower than most, and I think that's great for our community. If you come in, purchase for a day pass a lot cheaper than a lot of places.
Right.
And I do appreciate that as a community member to see that people access the pool cheaper than a lot of places.
Yeah, and we do still like raise our rates a little bit every year, just because I think that it's prudent to do that. Yeah,
We're getting a lot closer there, you know.
yeah,
But this is life.
yeah. So, okay, so those were great questions and comments. Now, so after our program revenue, then I always factor in a little bit of grant money in there, and from time to time I do, try and go after some grants. But mostly the grants are small. And so you can see that we got 3704 grant money in 2023 and 22. Yes.
Isn't the Ford Foundation grant money?
Yes.
It's on here.
Well, we haven't got it yet. It's contingent on us raising a certain amount before they release those funds.
So what happens if all of a sudden we have that money, we don't have it?
Well, just like when we got money from the Splash for Cash, it's gonna go into our account and then it goes over to the next year. And then we can allocate it, or we can just keep saving it. Well, yeah. The Ford Family Foundation was 25,000.
And it has to be in that dollar for dollar.
Well, it's Essentially, yes, but it's more complicated because they're looking at the whole amount, which was $1 million. So I think we need to raise half of that before they'll release the 25,000.
We have to raise 500,000 for those maybe.
I believe so.
So it's not $1 for dollar.
No, because it was based on the amount of our project. So
What was that for? What was?
it was just the pool renovations.
Who was it?
Yeah. I'm sure we can go and, you know, talk to them. We have meetings scheduled this coming December to discuss where we are on the grant. Because they give you like 18 months or whatever, you know, to get your ducks in a row. So.
It'd be interesting to know, one of the questions I had in my mind, has the board reviewed and kind of made a decision and helping the budget committee members understand what your goals are for the carryover and the additional grant monies? Is there a vision as to what would happen to the pool or for the pool, or to increase either services or care of the pool or improve the pool? Is there goals around that we should hear and be shared so that we know that this budget works toward those goals? I was just curious about that.
Well, I would say that the purpose of this budget is operating.
Just operation.
It is essentially operations. We have some money going to the reserve fund. And of course, we have some money that's not appropriated, that's hanging out in the general fund. That's still our money. And, you know, I'm saying we have a sizable amount that's gonna be our beginning fund balance, that a lot of that is carryover from the prior fiscal year. So, like, you know, we are very solvent, like, we have enough to keep pace with expenses and inflation. I mean, and it doesn't seem like that's gonna change like too quickly in the next year or two, but, you know, what's it gonna be like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I don't know. But, you know, this budget and the purpose of the district getting formed back in 2000 wasn't so that we could build a new pool. Okay, that was never the intent.
Some of us want that.
Well, for sure, I want that too, 30 million, but the purpose of that was to make this pool livable so that
Keep it going.
we could stay alive, yeah. And that is what I think.
What's the thing though, back then, it costs, I mean, this pool, how many years old, I forget, right off the top of my head.
Almost 50, so almost.
So, I mean, it's like, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Well, and I think it's a good point. I have the same question. If our vision is to build a fund that allows us to qualify even for poor families, you're pretty close. If you need $500,000, you've got 400,000. How do we take this budget, maybe spin it down and get there? And then
I was wondering if that was a direction the board thought about or talked about or planned for.
Well, I mean, it's,
You're talking about for the structure.
Well, for whatever goals you have for the additional funds that are in this budget right now, that have been carried over for several years now. You know, and it's almost at 400,000 today.
well, again, like, that's just a yes. We could land at 385. Or we could land at 402. I mean, to say that we're gonna start with the beginning fund balance of 400,000, I think is a reasonable amount. Okay, but again, I won't have any idea what that number really is until after the audit's done in January. So,
Yeah, to that point, I think, one of the things our lower rate help in, you can't use that $400,000 for pool repair, because the majority of it is to help us sustain for the first quarter of the year, until taxes come. So most of that's gonna be spent on operations, we don't actually have it there. Right.
so, I mean, and I'm glad you brought that up, Jeremy. So, you know, the pool, and I know Jeremy wishes that we could have a budget based on basically two things. Our program revenue and our property tax. Okay, so our program revenue, about $200,000. Okay, maybe we'll skate in at 202 or 205. Great, but maybe we'll have a big breakdown and not even make it 200,000. Maybe we'll be at like $180, right? Okay, if we could jack our prices way up and be just like the Albany Y or Corvallis, right? Where you're gonna, like the Albany Y, if you wanna go over there and swim noon lap, it's gonna cost you, well, I was thinking 12. Okay, but for me, it's gonna be 12, because I'm not like that old yet. Almost, almost. But you see what I'm saying? Like, it's $12. Well, yeah, that's why I haven't gone over there and swam noon lap yet. But same with Corvallis at Osborne, you're gonna pay probably like $7 or $8 to go over there and swim for that hour. Here, what's our adult admission? $4.25 if you live in the district. It's $5.50 if you don't live in the district. Okay, that's like a couple bucks less.
Well,
or
what we're supposed to do in the community decide that you can start bumping up the fees, but then you reduce the population, and
Right.
often you'll make less,
right.
because you don't have as many people. That matter for, you know, with that.
Supply and demand.
But with this budget, your concern that is that we just balance it. We balance it.
There's a working document that I would like to see in between or right before this. This is a document that gets presented to the state. And I agree with the format, I understand the format. There's a working document that's missing that I would like to see. That help me understand the budget a little closer to numbers I would like to see before we modify those numbers for what the state needs.
Okay, but let me keep going if you don't mind. So, okay, so again, Jeremy, and I did it, okay? He would like to see a budget based on the income that we think we're gonna get, the $625,735, plus my program revenue, $200,000. Okay, so then I should build a budget on $825,750 or $35. Okay, that's what I should make our budget on. Okay, and I'm saying that, like, you know, back when Gus was the director, okay, I'm gonna start my 11th year as director, okay? When Gus was the director, the pool was open 56 hours a week, 7 days a week. Right now, we are open 6 days a week and 83 hours a week, okay? I'm almost double the program offering that we have. And I have to have the amount of staff and the amount of support that I have. Okay, I can't just go and trim this budget. All right, I can't just go and slash personnel, because two things will happen. One is people's lives are gonna be at risk. Okay, I have to have a certain amount of lifeguards and ancillary support people to keep the pool open 83 hours a week. Okay, it's not that easy. You cannot just slack. Okay. So, and personnel, as you will see, is one of my biggest expenses. Well, it has to be. Absolutely has to be.
It is with every budget you look at, personnel's a place.
Yep.
Yes, okay, thank you. But you guys forget, or maybe it's not forefront in minds all the time, but like, we provide this great service for the community. We'll open as much as we possibly can be, all right? But when we are doing that, the bottom line is we have to keep people alive. I mean, water is the most inherently risky medium. You know what I mean? Think about it, like people drown. People, I mean, think about it, you're taking up running and you start running every day. You could have a heart attack, fall down on Main Street and kill over, right? Now add that and do it in water, okay? I mean,
You know, when I look at this budget and I think what you were asking is happening, that $825,000 that we get from income is what's spent over the course of the year. And that we still carrying over up to 400,000 from years of carrying over 30,000 or 50,000 or 80,000, right? So it seems like from that budget, we're carrying over about 60 to 80,000 a year, looking at this document, right? That's what I'm kind of seeing there, if I read it right. So your budget is still based on the income as to what the expenses are.
Right, it is, but we cannot, at this point, I mean, and I can, as I get along here, I am actually very pleased with this budget for this year, based on, more so than last year's budget. And I'll explain it in a second, but we have to use that carryover money. We absolutely do.
Use it.
We have to use some of it.
But by the end of this year,
You still have.
benefit for
Well, yes, but again, like if our expenses are a lot more than we budget, we might not have that extra 80,000, whatever.
What the boiler cost this year?
Right,
What
89,000.
So that took that chunk of money out of.
But there's that, and I'll also take it off the list of for starting out with.
No, the boiler, it has nothing to do with.
It wasn't on the list.
Oh.
It wasn't.
I
on
mean,
the
people
list.
are like, well, shouldn't be, you have to have low water. Well, we do, we have to have low water, but that's I mean, the boiler was not even on the list of the things that we know that we're gonna be facing with and leave the cast iron piping, the fact that
So this next year, the carryover might not be 80,000.
no, exactly.
I guess to everyone's point, I'd be interested in seeing what the list is.
Right, well, we've got the list. I mean, again, this budget
I understand,
is
this is
operations for,
Well, that's why I was asking my original question is,
but,
the board have a goal for any
Right.
additional funds it had?
well, I mean, back when we thought we were gonna go in with school district and get that grant funding, grant bond proceeds, we had a list, and there were 5 main items. Cast iron piping, the big pool gutter system is failing, the pool is not anymore, and we need new flooring throughout. And the
Spectator bathrooms.
spectator bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay, those are the 5, well, okay, the spectator bathrooms. I mean, for a safety standpoint, we absolutely need that. But if we don't have a spectator bathroom, that's not gonna shut the pool down probably.
In 10 years, do you project that you'll have $1 million covered? I mean, if you continue 80,000 a year,
No,
you know.
And we may have that.
Because
The
things-
cost could be
I
more.
may, well, things will break down, but then the cost of stuff is gonna keep going. And so we're, and true, I mean, I know nobody likes to talk about bond funding, but the reality, and this is no different than any other special district. The fire department, a water district, a bridge district, the city of Lebanon, let's say. Your budget is usually for operations, right? And then what do you do to go after these big unforeseen improvements? Or you need a new building, or you've got to relocate the pool, let's say, to a whole different area, or we realize, man, we need a 50-meter 8-lane pool instead of a 6-lane 25-yard pool. I mean, that's usually bond funding. I mean, that's usually what it is. Now, sometimes there's big benefactors. I mean, man, if there's a Phil Knight that was swimming in our pool every day, believe me, I'd be going after this guy and begging him. But if we have a Phil Knight swimming in our pool, I haven't met him yet.
So I think the donation pool is larger than it appears. That's the Lebanon Trail. Well, right. So some of it is, who are we partnering with? Are we headed for a Parks and Rec department? Will our aquatic district go back to those boundaries, which was not set up to be, but that's already being discussed with the city. the Lebanon Trail wants to come into a special district, they have to apply. So maybe we think about it because maybe we benefit from that.
Yeah, well, before the pandemic, I was in with that think tank.
Yeah.
And the school district was part of it, and the city of Lebanon, and a bunch of us had these discussions about what if the aquatic district became a larger park and rec district? Because, I mean, let's face it, Lebanon does, I mean, the city of Lebanon doesn't have a big robust parks department. They don't, okay? But take like City of Albany or City of Corvallis, right? I mean, there's like gardening classes and cooking and exercise and all this stuff that you can do as a citizen.
And we're all split up into little pockets.
Right.
And brought that together.
Right. But the thing is like in our, what is it? Like our terms of how we
Sure.
became, yeah. It says in there that we are only for the purpose of aquatics.
Because when it was set up and they their efforts in 2000, none of us would be swimming. It can be changed.
Just a small.
Well, it can be changed. It would have to, the current land would have to be completely absolved. And then we have to reform as a new district.
Which is not just, yeah, but it's not an impossibility. It's not like.
No.
you lose any-
No, but also I've heard that the county commissioners have said a few years ago that they will not approve any new special districts.
Brand new, not.
Well, but we would be a brand new.
Well,
Now, we've had lawyers discuss this, like,
yeah,
our current, the way we are, we cannot change that, just like we can't change our 24 cents per thousand. That is set in stone. Well, we really need 30 cents per thousand, sorry.
I appreciate these conversations and discussions because I kind of wonder, I just wonder where that's all going.
Yeah.
It's similar discussions we had in 2000 about if we have this pass, what do we do with it, where to go with it. But, so I just was curious, if this carryover continues over the next 5 years, we could be close to $1 million carryover.
Well,
And,
maybe,
that's why I was wondering how you're doing that.
or maybe not, I mean.
Maybe not.
I mean, really,
Well, this pool is old and a major thing could happen.
right, right, and then the other thing too, keep in mind that
So do you, yeah.
2 years ago, this, when we thought we'd get that bond proceeds, we had come up with some pretty good data to fix those 5 things, and it was gonna be 1.2 million. Okay, that's 2 years ago. So that 1.2 million cost is now probably 3 million or whatever, right? Because everything's gone up. So even if on the best, brightest note, we were able to save $1 million 5 years from now, that $1 million, we only need 4 million or whatever for that same 1 or 2
you
projects.
might, by the time you get to $1 million, you might have the same form of.
Right.
That's it.
Invalid.
I guess it's really decisions for the board to kind of make a decision about the future of that.
Right.
Let's move on with this budget.
Right, because like, those are all great conversations that the board of directors should hear. I'm just tasked with coming up with the operations budget. Okay, so we add up all those different things, and again, the beginning fund balance is just a good guess. And if you look at that sheet that I passed out, so the actual for 2023, I had said that my beginning fund balance was gonna be 280,000. And when we did the audit, we actually were $427,227. So, yes, we brought more money forward currently that, I had no idea that we were gonna,
So are you projecting for 2024, it will be about 400,000, and do you feel like you'll have that much?
I mean, it might be 380, it could be 4, but I think 400,000 is a good figure. Okay, so then if you go to the expenditures page. Yes, page more.
One more.
Sure.
Okay, that's all right. Investment income is the, something sitting there.
Well,
It's not entirely.
so the more money that we used to have a money market, and then Jeremy, found out that if we switched our money to the LGIP, the Oregon's Local Government Investment Pool, they actually pay much better than we are getting on our money market. So we switched that. So honestly, like, I think we're probably gonna get more money in that, but again, like, if rates go way down, then even their good rate goes down. So again, I can't paint too rosy of a projection.
Yeah, I just figured so. I figured everything.
How much you could have been investment for whole?
Well, I mean, right now I've got like 400 and some thousand in there, I think. But I'm gonna have to, because now we're running on fumes, right? Because the tax money is like $1,000 or $500. And so I'm gonna have to make another draw and bring it over to the general fund. I have some money that I moved over last week, but before we make payroll again at the end of the month, I'm probably gonna have to do like a $50,000.
And there's no fee. Yeah, it's meant to be transparent.
Yeah.
That's good.
Is there any questions from the group around that page, on the general fund revenues? Any other questions?
I think you guys got it pretty good.
Okay, so now basically the general fund expenditures, so, and then these are like the main numbers for all the categories, and then the subsequent pages, I break down, the categories. So for personnel expenses, I'm projecting that we're gonna be 616,961. For materials and services, 211,960, which is a little bit less than last year's. And then for capital, there's a few, maintenance projects that we need to do. And so I'm budgeting 23,888 is our contingency, and then our loan payment, that doesn't change, and that will be paid off as of May 1st, 2026. So we have exactly like 24 months and then that thing's done, so that would be nice.
Just share. What was the report?
In 2011, when Gus was the director, they took on a huge HVAC renovation. So, yeah. A bunch of energy upgrades, which, I mean, the boiler was part of that, but again, like boilers only last about 10 years.
There's no current program. Fit or,
Well, I mean, we bought a new boiler,
but I mean, was there a similar energy program?
not for the, yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to see if there's any incentive that we're gonna get from the Department of Energy, but I haven't heard back yet. So,
And that program was supposed to renew at the end of the 10 years, like before that. So I remember what this went on, and it was 10 and 10 years.
yeah,
We'll see.
well, we reached out to them and they didn't, I mean, cause
It's about all hours.
yeah, something like that. And then,
So our items after that loan payment then will be available funding.
yes.
And no plans of a follow-up loan.
I mean, it's been discussed, but. And it was for almost 500,000, it was like 400,
Here's a lot.
yeah, it was pretty close to half a million. Okay, and then the unappropriated fund balance. So if you think about the beginning fund balance of 400,000, that's that guess number that I think we're gonna start July 1 with. And then I'm saying I've got all these expenditures that we're gonna need throughout the year. And then that almost 250,000 is money that I'm saying that we have, you know, that's hanging out in the general fund, but we're not appropriating, we're not spending it on it. So, but it is money that is available to spend.
But it's not available.
Well, I mean, we'd have to do another supplemental budget and whatever, but I mean, it's good because it's money that we have that is hanging out.
But I guess what I'm asking is, it's not available to be payroll in.
No, not in its current form because it's unappropriated.
What's the procedure?
Well, there's a couple things. So if you have if you need to move some money around, you can do it by a motion or resolution, okay? If the change is less than 10%. Okay, so, you can use your contingency. So like, let's say we had a bunch of breakdowns and we're like, oh, I think we're gonna not quite make our, maintenance budget. So we could, you know, the board could do a resolution to take 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever, move it over. Because that would be, you know, less than 10% of that fund. But if it was something really big, then we could do a supplemental budget. Or if somebody with a bunch of money came in and was like, oh, I just love the pool so much, here's $1 million. Well, you could bet we would do a supplemental budget so that we could actually use that money. Unless somebody walked in right now, then I could scramble and figure out where to put it and then use it because we're not at the new budget yet. So there are some ways that you can deal with making changes to the budget after the fact. So for instance, like this current fiscal year that we're in, we had intended to do a transfer to the reserve fund of $70,000. Well, the boiler died, right, this winter. And so then what we did is we reversed that transfer. And so then we took that 70,000 and put it back in the general fund. That was almost like 3/4 of our price of our budget, or I mean our boiler. And so then I had some other money that I knew I wasn't gonna spend in personnel because I had budgeted for another full-time head guard, but that person was no longer full-time. And so then, you know, I knew I wasn't gonna use all of that salary. So then I was able to take 25,000, put some of it toward that capital piece and then put the rest in our building maintenance. So we were able to just by a resolution, or move a few things around, and then we paid for the boiler.
So what's the vehicle of the unappropriated fund that, where is it?
It's in that fund, you're saying.
Well, it's basically from that 400,000, it's money that I'm saying we don't need to spend. So,
Like, I didn't mean it that way, I did that mean with the cash.
well,
It's in
again,
the- You were saying it's in the investment fund.
right, it is, but again, like, there's money on paper, and then there's actual money in the LGIP. And depending on costs, we're gonna dip into that actual cash. I can tell you with a certainty, we will dip into some of that before we get to the first Friday in November when I get my first property tax. So, because if we had to operate only in the current year, I am gonna run out of money by the end of July.
So in understanding these funds, it's a reserve fund where you've got available cash to pull from. And the
Well-
investment fund, you can pull just easily from too.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, will you,
Yeah, so we're really talking a couple. One of them is cash flow expense, right? You have your revenue, a big chunk of it comes into November. So you gotta kind of write that out.
Yeah.
You're gonna invest that money in the LGIP. And then as we're waiting till next November, or at least still has bills she's gotta pay, payroll, et cetera. But she, like you mentioned, you're only getting $500,000. You're drawing on your cash flow that's sitting out there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just wondering where that money is. The unappropriated fund balance, where is that money sitting?
It's gonna be sitting in the LGIP.
yeah. It's right now, it's in the LGIP. See, and I try to keep as much money in that account as I can because it has a great interest rate. But again, like, I mean,
The money will be there.
it's gonna, right now,
2 months you be.
right, it's like 400 and some thousand right now, but trust me, come, November 30th, well, I mean, like, yeah, November 30th, I'm probably gonna be at 300 and some. Like, I will probably use, 80 to 100,000 of that. But then when we get those big property tax payments in November, then I'm not gonna need 600,000 right then and there, you know what I mean? So then it stuffed as much as I can over the course of the year.
Well, that's what we were just wondering where that money was. And how it was.
Yeah.
Which is super nice, you get that big balance and, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost 6 months. So you're
Right.
getting a huge amount of interest on that. Nice.
Correct, yeah.
Was that your question earlier when we first started the meeting?
No, our funds are sitting in one of three accounts, we got the LJIP, we got savings and checking. Although we simply moved, those three accounts, the majority of them high interest, as is convenient for paying bills.
So that was in your statement, though, you were talking about that for first month.
So then, okay, so just,
Do you want to go over that now?
Are we at that section here? Was that?
well, I
Would you want to, kill it all
I just
for?
have just a couple of comments of why I'm like pretty excited about this budget. Is, okay, so if you look back at your, cash carryover. So in the previous years, I would put down as my unappropriated fund balance 90,600, which was that original PEP money from back in like 2013.
Yeah.
That's just been like, we just keep moving it around every year, right? Well, we've since added to that, right? Because we've been doing fundraisers and when we had Larry Mullins and he was helping us fundraise and stuff, like, he helped us get some money. So that actually has gone up a little bit over the last couple of years, okay? So what I did this year that's different from the previous years is I tried to come up with a better beginning fund balance that's, I'm hoping is a lot more accurate, because again, do you remember, like I budgeted 280,000 for the current fiscal year, but we know that that beginning funds was 427. So there's a big difference between 280,000 and 427,000, right? So I'm trying to account for that. And then on this unappropriated amount, again, I'm trying to make that more realistic. Because again, if I had put down that 90,600, that's unappropriated, because again, it's money that we're supposed to use on the pool renovations. See what I mean? Like, again, we'd just be more off. And then I think then we have this bigger carryover that seems to just, be a problem. So I'm trying to make it more realistic. So that's why I'm excited about that. Okay, and then the other thing is, again, if you look at our history of transfers, because this is in here too. Like we were gonna transfer 70,000, which this year's data is not on this list, but the year before was 55,000, then 15,000, 15,000, 32,000, 20,000, 20,000. So in the last 6 years, we haven't ever come close to putting 80,000 in our reserve fund. So I am very excited about that fact, that even though, there are some things that have gone up in our budget, we're still putting away $80,000 to the reserve fund. And I think that's like pretty darn good. So anyways, and then, so that's then basically where I'm saying our expenditures match our revenue. Okay.
Got it. And I don't know, because I don't know how the board exactly is structured. I'll compare it to the library. The library has a board, has a board, and has a friends of the library fund. That's a board where this conversation that I would bring up to go. So I don't know if I should fill our board members. It's gonna have to be what I'm sure about. What do we spend $500 a month on that?
Well, I can get to that.
You,
I mean, on the next, page where materials and services, everything's broken down.
okay, so the like, okay, then what do we spend $10,000 a year on collection costs? We're required because we have a special district for one.
Whenever we have board members, like we had elected, actually 3, 3 board members, well, we pay for that.
So it's the printing of, material.
Well, no, it's the cost that the county charges us.
That's.
Well, it's not, it's, well, maybe you know their formula better, but election costs are almost impossible to try and figure out.
Divided out across all the like.
Yeah.
Conservative aspect, so that you're in a ballpark.
Right. So is there any way to avoid that cost? Can we?
Not ever have board members get elected, I guess.
Can we change something? Well, I guess the county election, so. Far away from that.
No, and again, I always try to put some in there, because then too, like, what if there's some, like, reason that we have to do a special election or something? You know, I mean, and then the other thing that's in that advertising piece is we have to put public notice, right? Like, if anybody took the paper, they would see that if we paid, well, I still have to do it, even though it's a benefit.
But yeah,
All of that falls under that piece.
okay, so radio marketing. Oh,
No, I mean, that's
That's all.
might be like $8 in a year.
yeah, that's all about the Facebook somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
In the follow pages, there's more of a breakdown of each of those categories.
Yeah, I was looking through it, but those were my questions, and I'm sorry, I still have the same question. What are we spending $5,800 on for phone line and fax or a phone system? Internet?
It's phone, it's all cell phone allowance for, three of our staff
On call.
because, you know, like I get calls at 4 o'clock in the morning, midnight.
Yeah, I'm not stating it's not critical, I'm just asking. It's not stupid.
Does that also count the alarm?
Where did you want? Oh, security burglar.
Yeah, that's our security burglar alarm.
Is there any questions, on the specific items on the general fund expenditures anybody has? On any of these line items, have any additional questions on as to how they break down?
The contract expenses, the payroll, so for $9,800 a year, we have a payroll accounting service that we support them, we give them to today from the, yeah, that bookkeeper, yeah, that's for whole bookkeeping. I'm just looking for like, is there anything we can do to help here? Right? There, improvements we can make, or the costs that we just kind of fallen into, and stuff, whatever.
Well, I mean, the bookkeeping service they're amazing. And same like with, I mean, technically, like the last couple of years, like we fall outside the requirement of paying for a governmental audit. But it would actually cost us more not to have a governmental audit because there's 2 different engagements we have to pay for rather than an audit. Plus, like the auditors, they're amazing. That's all they do are government agencies. So yeah, they don't miss a.
You actually down almost $18,000 from this current budget to this projected budget. Did you drop a service?
No, I just try and like, if I think, like, for instance, the pool chemicals, like last year, I raised them.
Expenses. What's there?
Well, Larry Mullins.
Oh, Larry Mullins.
Larry Mullins, that was big.
I would serve that.
Yeah.
Or we are doing something this year that's causing the legal. Like.
Well, we spend a lot of legal services this year, current year, way more than we budgeted for. So I thought, well, if this year is any indication from last year, it would be prudent to put more realistic figures. What? Just pretty much anything.
What happens if we go over one budget items?
So if you go over a single line item, it's not crucial. You don't want to go over the main fund items. So for instance, personnel, like, well, like, look at where we are right now. The adopted number of our current is $596,500. If it looks like this next month, we're gonna go over. Then we would do a resolution to move money from somewhere that I know that I'm not gonna go.
What are the main, are these the full, on the main page here, are the chief folder headlines, and they drive it?
Those are the 5 categories that I rattled off at the beginning. So first is capital, debt service, and then the reserve fund and special fund.
You know, I miss Sundays so much. I probably my biggest swim time, always, and I remember Sundays, there being quite a few people there. And I was wondering if there's extra money, if there's another 10,000 in this budget to hire a couple bars to cover the Sunday. And I think of kids in the hot summer, that Sunday, instead of going down the river, straight at the pool to come to for the one floor. I'm just wondering about, you know, is there some way to consider in this budget to bring back Sundays?
Well, that's a good question, but, Sundays, well, first of all, it's nice having a day where we're not open 7 days a week, because it's almost impossible to get down there to do maintenance or to do things, because you gotta kick people out to do those types of things. So it's nice. And I mean, I don't have a plethora of leftover staff. In fact, most of you probably see me lifeguarding quite recently. And so, I mean, I'm always trying to just travel to hire more lifeguards. Like, you know, believe it or not, lifeguards aren't paid super well. And I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to, you know, I lost an employee just this month to Papa Murphy. Because you can start at Papa Murphy's, I think at like $17 an hour. Well, I don't pay entry guard that. Well, I probably need to. Overall.
Well, and you lost another one to another pool in Albany.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's
Just wanted to say that overall, we've been, I don't know where we're at in it, but the last couple of years has become, there's a shortage of lifeguards.
and there still is.
And yes, and some pools have closed because they can't staff them. And we've been pretty fortunate so far.
So, Lori, we have a lifeguard class, class, and we're trying to train our own employees. And
Well,
some years that works great,
yeah.
some years it doesn't.
And for instance, right now, we have a lifeguard, it's a PE class for the high school. And they're just about done. And I think there's like 11 or 12 that started out in that class. 2 of them broke their foot about a month ago, so now they're out. And those were great swimmers and stuff. And of those like 12 kids and the 2 that have the broken feet, I have 2 that I'm hiring. Well, I tried to talk to the other 6 or 7 or 8, but they don't, you know, they got other things going on, they don't want a job, whatever. So, you know, and we're always behind the 8 ball trying to get staff.
There's some, used to be kind of a theater, right, in the high school, with the lifeguard pool.
And it is, but like right now, we have a really young team.
Yeah, we have a gap. Right.
And one of those high school swimmers that became staff, they're the ones that left to go to Papa Murphy's. They can make a lot more money than I'm paying. So,
Something for the board to consider for the future is salaries. If we increase that, it's at least an issue for any organization. Or paying people that you might always have. So, increase the salaries. You always have it part-time, right? You never over 20 hours, so they have to be.
well, I mean, yeah, they can't go over 30 hours. But they can for half the year, they can't go over 30 hours per month. And or you have to have, they have to have a draft. Well, how many staff do we have? Having me, Jill, Jen, and then I've got a few adult instructors that are not lifeguards. But No, I don't think I probably had 13 lifeguards.
We've got someone locally.
Yeah, we've got some.
Yeah, that's the hard part, right? Because you know, the Y's also short of people and hiring. So we're competing in a pretty small pool.
The question is whether it-
Unintended.
So some moving around with additional funds into the personnel services.
Well, I mean, I,
Look at Sunday.
yeah, I have,
Option, but
well-
again, I know it's a board decision.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a suggestion.
yeah.
Well, there's enough interest in, there's probably even pay more. Maybe so. Might make bookkeeping more complicated.
Well, yeah, we can't.
Just give you a day off, and I get it, your phone's gonna ring if we're open up.
Well, it brings anyways, even when we're closed, but it's I just don't have the staff to stay open 7 days a week.
And some of those, the really, really good ones, tend to get burned out
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
get called in. You have to realize, lifeguarding is a boring job unless somebody is drowning. Yeah, you're sitting in your chair, and all three of my boys were lifeguards. And so I know firsthand that if, unless you've got really pretty girls out there doing
Well,
their thing.
we don't want them focusing on it.
Well, I really,
Yes.
but you know, and you forget, because they can live with older, go off to college, they're gone. They might come back summer for you if they can't find a better paying job. So it's a point well.
Or sometimes I lifeguarded in Elizabeth, outdoor pools, Elizabeth, New Jersey, through high school. And there were 300 kids at that pool at any given time. And I mean, as lifeguard, you had to just be aware. You had to like stop kids running, you had to, you know, control things that are going on in the pool. I mean, but our pool sometimes, especially the last one in time, pretty boring. Watching people go back for it.
Well, that's true, so
You guys need to develop some interesting strokes. You guys need to develop some interesting strokes. Keep us on our
The
toes.
flounder.
I did have a question based on something you said. So if you look at the actual breakdown on the salary page, you're increasing the part-time. Yeah, I'm talking about salary. So I wanted to know the part-time temporary, how many people does the projection of 209,000 cover? Is it the 13 you just said, or is it more? Well, it's everybody except Jill, myself, and Jim. So, well, we have 23.
They'd like more.
Like the highest amount of people I've ever had, I think was 34. And then, of course, the lowest amount we've had was like 17, which that was during COVID, we were right after COVID. I don't want to ever go that low again.
So the 19,000 additional is for additional.
Oh, raises, because the minimum wage goes up again July 1. So, and then, you know, I've got people that are making different rates because they're doing different jobs, but they're still part-time. So that's accounting for, the minimum wage increase and then increasing everybody else too. PERS is if you work 600 hours in a calendar year, you become eligible for PERS. So about half my staff are on PERS.
That I didn't realize, I thought it was number of hours.
And if somebody like we've got some staff that are actual teachers and they teach exercise classes, they pay their PERS because they're already. Yeah, like if they're retired and then they become, but that's, I mean, I only have like 2 people that are in that category.
But I didn't know it was part-time, I thought it was hours.
It's annual, it's $600 in a calendar year, and so here's the double-edged sword with PERS. So as people like their job and keep working, right? And because we're usually always short-staffed, so there's always an availability, right? Then I've got people that meet that requirement. Well, so then the state, so let's say you meet it in like June, okay? Well, then the PERS tells us like, oh, yeah, this, you know, Judy here became eligible June 1st. Well, now you gotta go back to January 1. So they go back to the beginning of the year. Yeah, and so then they're like, oh, your part of that is $300 or $400. And then the employee's chunk of that is $300 or $400. And then, you know, most of my staff are like college kids or high school kids, right? And so then they see this chunk get taken out of their savings account or their paychecks. And then they're in going, wait, what is this? You know, I don't want this. Can I opt out of it? And it's like, sorry.
So you get about 100 hours, so 30 hours, 20 weeks, if you're working for 30 hours.
Well, we try not to work in 30 hours a week.
So you can stretch it to a year.
Well, we try, but the problem is, again, like, it's, we get in a jam and then we're like, hey, you know, somebody's sick, somebody, whatever, and so. But the other thing is, I've got, believe it or not, I have a really low turnover rate. And
You've got a really good group.
yes, I do, and as they stay and keep working more, then they're gonna end up becoming eligible on PERS.
And that's why the increase of 34,000.
So here's why. So I had budgeted, so if you look at that column, adopted, I had figured that we were gonna land about 70,500. We're not, we're gonna land closer to 83,000. Okay, so either I just miscalculated this current year that we're in, or we had several more people get on PERS that I wasn't anticipating, or it's probably both. And so 22 to 23% every year. Well, it's gonna go up a lot more than that because we're really gonna land about 83,000. So then if I take that number and then factor in, say, $22,000, that's where I'm coming up with 100.
So in an ideal world with no staff shortage, you increase the pool of availability, avoid PERS altogether for your part-time.
Well, okay, but as sooner or later though, as they stay, you know what I mean? The only way I can do that is I hire you for 6 months and then I fire you, lay you off. Then I rehire you and then lay you off and then rehire you. Well, nobody's gonna put up with that.
Or like a 20-hour job. This is your job. You want more than 20 hours a week.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
No.
In a classic Lifeguard high school kid, 20 hours is great, was fine, but we keep, this is going on for years. Keep increasing the age group that's appropriate for this one.
Well, they're kind of cool, you know, personnel run schools, you know?
Right.
And that's their calling, and that's what they're doing in the fight. Wage, that's what we have.
I have a quick
Yeah,
question.
I actually would
Go ahead.
say more for less.
So I have a question. If once an employee gets on PERS, they work the 600 hours, they're on PERS. Do they stay on PERS from then on out? Or do they have to, next year, do they have to work their 600 before they get PERS? Once they're on PERS, they're on PERS?
Once you're eligible, then you're eligible. And then if they quit the pool and then, you know, maybe they go to work for some other PERS agency, like school district or law enforcement or whatever, then they just carry on. Or maybe they go and they work for a private industry, but then down the road, they get back onto a public service job, and then it'll start back up.
They like me, they pull their money out and go hike the Appalachian Trail for 3 months.
That sounds like fun, though.
Yeah. There is such a penalty though for taking it out early.
$62,000 to buy it back. Roughly $62,000 to buy back that $1,300 I took out.
Wait, you took out 1,300, you had to pay
$62,000 to get my full benefit.
Wow. I bet you what you didn't hike that.
I know, it was great.
You better see Bigfoot on that.
Is there any other questions around, personnel? Do we have any other questions?
I think some of the services, I didn't have a question. So we're paying for a custodian part-time.
Well, I have three people that are my custodians.
But is that the first?
Well, I mean, one of them I think is on PERS because they've been.
Steph, coyote coming at us.
So do you like actively look at maybe this could be a service? The amount of money that's going into PERS and.
Well, we had a janitor service
Yeah.
and it was a lot more expensive than just paying a couple staff members to do our own janitorial.
And I'm not saying good or bad, I'm just like, is there like an ongoing conversation, like, that not be appropriate for this meeting, because that's something that's talking about.
Well, I mean, I get quotes from time to time, but again, like, those outside janitor services are not cheap. So,
But the decisions that you make, not the board.
yeah.
Okay, that's what.
So something you just said, you said you have 3 people to do the custodian part-time. Are those 3 people who are getting salary out of the part-time temporary and salary?
No, if they're doing custodian, then it's coming out of.
But are they regular employees who are also or other jobs doing custodial work?
Some of them,
Show them.
3 of the people that actually do custodian stuff, that's all they do, is custodian stuff.
So are they
Yeah.
in the part-time? So really that number is 20 people because you have 3 people out of that 23 in the custodian budget instead of in the part-time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in years past, I've tried to just put everybody other than the 3 full-time people in part-time temporary, because honestly, that's how I look at it. Doesn't matter if you're custodian, lifeguard, lead guard, lesson instructor, whatever. If you're part-time temporary, you're part-time temporary. But I noticed that every time I try and single it out, the bookkeeper or the auditor keep saying, because again, it's historical. So back in the day when you could hire somebody part-time, then Gus had created this part-time janitor position, but the problem is now with equal pay and all of that, and with, the whole, you can't work over 30 hours, you gotta provide benefits, it just makes more sense for me to just lump everybody else in part-time temporary, but everybody keeps, the bookkeeper and the auditors keep singling that out, so that's why I left it. But
Is there anything else around, personnel, salaries, that area, personnel services? Is there any other questions around the breakdown of what those services are and the budgets for them?
I don't mean to be the only question. Swim club coaching, I know one of the, is that because it's carrying on in the budget?
so the swim club coaching, there's been a few years where we've had to pay for coaches out of the general. So that's why,
Historically, it's not right now, not protected.
yeah, it's not projected.
Okay, and I know they have a separate budget, they are supposed to be self-supporting with that coaching salary.
Right.
But that could also be people from the staff of the pool that are
Yeah,
south or gym or somebody coaching.
right.
So it's seen as kind of a perk.
Well, no, there's two coaches now, and when they coach, they have a different code that goes to the bookkeeper than when they just lifeguard. So it does go in our separate budgets.
So we've gone through, salaries, recommended personnel services. Any questions around the materials services breakdown? Through page 6 and page 7, is there any questions on any of those categories? Ones? From the audience, any questions about any of that?
I do have a question. For software expense, we're budgeting $250 a year, $250 a month.
Nope, that's still here. All of these are just like for the whole aggregate.
And then, you assume buying some new computers or?
Well, I mean, you know, yeah, so printers only last us 24 months if we're lucky. And I finally figured out, after we just have to keep replacing printers, that it's the humidity, you know, like even though our office is more, you know, a better environment, we have AC and stuff in the office, but it just, electronics and our phones are always like staticky and terrible, and it's just that humidity just eats electronics like crazy. And so we have to keep money in there, just, you know, in case, you know, like I'm not anticipating having to buy a new computer, but you know.
In materials and services, is there anything, equipment wise or maintenance wise, that is an add on to the pool to improve it? Is there anything, or is it
No,
just?
this is all just, yeah.
Is there anything that would help? That was,
Well,
I guess that's my
I
question.
mean-
Is there anything that you want us to review too and say, hey, that's a great idea, and move money into it, or? Is there, I was just thinking, you mentioned these shower heads, new shower heads over there. I mean, silly stuff like that, but
No, it's not the shower heads, it's
that
the
whole fund.
thing.
That's in that pool improvement.
Yeah.
That we're putting money for, that was some of the items that we were given.
You know,
These are
that's-
maintenance things that eventually need to happen anyway.
right, well, we replaced the inside, you know, you take out that metal box off the wall, right? And just that main, like, actuator thing, I'm not big on plumbing, but that thing itself is like $180. And then there's what, 6 showers in the men's locker room, so, and then there's tubing, because it's all air actuated, right? And water actuated, and, I mean, to replace all of that, except for the stainless steel shell thing with the button on there, I mean, we probably spent $300.
You put the iron board back, that's happening.
Yeah, we did that, it's in.
It's in.
It's in. Well, I mean, I was gonna share this at the next meeting, but we bought the new diving board in January, ordered, and they said it's got a like 16-week lead time. So then they called me up in April and they're like, all right, we're sending you the tracking information and your diving board's on its way. And it was like, great. So we were following the tracking information, and then it supposedly got to Eugene, and then it was gonna go by a smaller carrier, because the thing is 257 pounds and it was 20 feet long. Okay, well then it never showed up, never showed up, never showed up. And so we finally called down there to that secondary vendor, and they were like, we got the bill of lading, we got all the paperwork, but it's not on the truck. And it was like, how do you lose a 300-pound, 20-foot long box? And they're like, we don't know where it is. And so, okay. Anyway, so then, you know, a week later, then it just shows up. Right? This guy just shows up. And I didn't have, you know, calling, because I mean, I'm not carrying that in the pool. And so anyways, so then it was a mad scramble trying to like get it off the truck and get it in the pool. But anyways, so then we get it all in, it's ready to go, and then, Alden.
Expired.
Called me up and said, do you wanna buy the guy? And they're like, yeah, what did it cost? And I'm like, it was $666 and like 67 cents. And they gave me a check for $666. $6,000.
$6,000, yeah.
I was gonna try that.
Yeah.
I saw the check and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow.
That was great.
So, yeah, that was completely just out of.
Who was that? Who was it that donated?
The Forrester, Dr. Forrester and his.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So in your projection, what is for capital, what is equipment then that you were thinking about for 15,000?
Okay, so, yeah,
It's gonna be.
the one pool, we need to, because it's gonna be probably another year or two before we can redo the one pool. Obviously, and we got opinions, it's just beyond, it's terrible. And so that's what that 3,500 is the painting the whirlpool, and then the main bank of bleachers, they're kind of that mint green color. Well, there's like this plastic kind of thing that's the safety behind it, so if you're on the very top, you can't just fall off the back of it. Well, that's all deteriorating, and we've got to get new. Yeah, they don't even make that netting anymore. So we're gonna get basically powder coated, barrier thing that's put back there.
Expanded metal.
Projection for that.
That is just unforeseen, yeah, but it could be.
Like the shower head in the men's room could go over the non.
Yeah.
That's great.
You know, I think.
Wait till you use the toilets in the women's room.
Well, the women's is,
I'm sorry, I will say, I brought up, I'm sure everyone's doing their best, but the district might be young, but the women's locker room smaller.
oh, I know. The,
And I'm sure can't get it off, or you would.
no, it's the whole facility flooring, it's just terrible. Like, I have 5 different flooring substrates in the facility. And if you count the carpet, I think I have 6. But it's just, yeah.
Yeah, how long do you want the pool to be down to is, I guess, the other big question, you know?
Well,
The little things like shower heads, or the flooring, I would donate. Ask me if I can support a $24 million bond, that's a bigger conversation. Ask me if I'll give you $100 and we get a new shower floor out of it, I'm all there.
well, but the problem is, like, I mean, just the shower floor, okay, we could maybe do that floor, but the whole floor, no, I don't.
I understand why.
That gets back to my original question though, it's like, I mean, how much extra money, what's the vision for this extra money? Is it to improve the facility in some way? And I don't, again, it's support, as a budget committee member, I just shared, my thought is that maybe some of that money should be for these incidental things to make it a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more customer friendly environment. You know, I know it's an old system. I mean, the heat in the men's room was there for 5 months. I mean, you know, I remember that, you know, and
It froze.
yeah. And you can find a part.
Let's pick up pick, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's some stuff, I hear some of the young mothers just, they don't wanna put their kids in. And they're telling their friends, we have to try all this stuff. It's interesting. You know, you're just sitting there trying to defend it, it's like. You know, one of the moms was like, how much money do we need to donate to just get her clean? She was gonna bring her spray brush with her. Like, I didn't say it.
You don't know if it's our role, but I think we, as long-term users of it, we think, oh, let's improve the facility a little bit in some of these areas of, and that's, again, the board has to have those discussions, you know, allocate money toward that. But I think it's a great idea, it improves the look, and the person who doesn't go there that often gives them a better impression of it if it's a little bit nicer inside.
Right.
You know, and unless, you know, we know that the main pool not being level could crack any time in the next 10 years, and, you know, then, I mean, you have a pool, you know.
Build an aquifer. Build an aquifer.
Right now, the aquifer is about a foot below the pool. If we pumped out the pool, it would float like a boat.
Please move on. I'm sorry. Okay. But we want to get back before we're done. But is there anything else on the budget line items? We can talk about materials, personal services. We look at capital, anything on contingencies. the whole thing, which is still one in there. So I guess we're at that point that you originally wanted, but I couldn't understand that fully, but maybe you could explain again what you want.
Right, so as part of our allocated monies here, $400,000 of pre-existing money has been allocated throughout this. Now down at the bottom, ideally, you see your unappropriated or your transfers add up to 400,000. That'd be accurate. Now, I get that we don't want to go over because we get penalized by the state. And so we make sure that our budget is comfortable enough and we won't go over. But every year we always have $50,000 extra. So what I would like to see is a working document that has our, like the estimate that we think that we're gonna see, and it has that $50,000 extra. Now, this is realistic. We think we might actually hit this year. And then we take those and we add where we want to get to these numbers, because this is what we need to report to the state for legal reasons. That's
So is it legally a problem reporting it this way?
no, this is the best way to report it to the state, to keep ourselves at small. But in terms of the budget committee, what I would like to see is an expectation of excess money.
We'd like to see it every,
Because we have it every year.
the blue sky number.
Right, we have that money every year.
Generally use something.
Well,
See the now.
well, but my rebuttal would be like, when we get the audit done, then we know what money we actually have in our carryover.
I think, so if I'm interpreting right, I mean, kind of what we've been saying, is where are the opportunities for small things or for focused funding? And I love that there's fundraising, everything now, but let's take on some projects. You know, maybe you need people, let's go, okay, you'll take shower heads, I'll take flooring, and come back to the board with some ideas of, say, here's the people who donate, maybe here's a fun little, you know, give us $5, give a new floor.
Well, but that's exactly what the fundraising committee is doing.
That very conversation, the ideas, everything you're saying would be very welcome at our fundraising committee meetings. You can come in person or join by Zoom. Saturday, we had our first event, formally, our first official event. And there are other things that we are planning to explore, seeking individual generous donations, but ideas for, and Jeremy brought it up more than once about, and he's on my committee, but about maybe we could, you know, break up and do smaller pieces. But overall, what we're trying to get to fairly quickly is this refurbishment of the pool. A lot less expensive than a new pool, but it would address surface issues in the pool itself, on the decks, the locker rooms, all with new surface. It would balance the gutters so that we're not running tilted. Have I?
Replace the piping.
Oh, the pipes, yeah, we had the pipes that go under the tank were scoped and they're so corroded, and the fear is a collapse. So with this renovation, well, the decks would have to be cut into, yeah, but PVC, modern PVC pipe to the deep end. And while we're at it, 2 drains in the deep end. which is the modern requirement for pools. We only have the one. Well, that's because we're an old pool and we didn't have to. In fact, building regulations when the pool was built was kind of piecemeal, local, state, whatever. But it's a lot more rigid now. So this refurbishment, we're estimating to be on the outside, $2 million. And it's a big undertaking, but slowly over time, people have, starting with the PEP pool expansion project, and donations, motivated people have just donated in general. We want to pull that together and make headway and address these things as quickly as we can.
So that answers my question.
Okay.
Is it coming then not out of the operational budget, but instead of a separate effort? And I didn't realize the fundraising had this broad. So really, you've taken everything out of the operational budget that we're reviewing.
Not everything out of operational.
Well,
We're not replacing it.
Capital, we do have 50,000 for something. Right. So I imagine about that years ago. If it doesn't break down, you probably add something. Something that breaks down this year.
Well, plenty of stuff that won't be addressed in refurbishment. And for instance, well, the boiler went out. That wouldn't be on the list. There are so many things that still aren't on the list, but
yeah, that would be normal operational.
yes.
Okay, that helps me.
Can you remind me, if we have a second meeting after people have had a chance to look at it before the?
Not usually. Usually we deliberate and then they vote on it.
Is it possible to do that? I mean, just thinking about the time and the questions, 3 o'clock, we still have to have another meeting. People have questions. I just did the budget, committee like you guys are for the LBCC. We had a meeting on Wednesday. They presented all the information. We had 1 week to review it, to any questions, talk about it, and then right before the next board meeting, we got together and resolved the issue and voted to approve it or not approve it.
I think it would be appropriate to ask the budget committee if they would be willing to come back and, do a more thorough overview through that.
Well, yeah, because give them time. I mean, we had it for a little bit of time, but they didn't hear your commentary. Now we've got some commentary. You guys have a little more context.
It is a decision made by the budget committee in this meeting. Will we follow-up meeting?
Can you ask my?
And there's one on the calendar.
When they're hearing this.
Is there any issues with the proposed budget on any of the line items? I did hear it, maybe specific. It shows how to deal with this.
I don't feel like we made a formal decision based on the way the numbers are presented.
So what if you disagree? What is that?
Well, to do any action requires a majority vote. So, I mean, if you wanted to just say, well, I make a motion that we just approve the budget as presented, if the majority votes yes, then it'll get presented. I mean, it'll get approved. If the majority is like, no, we don't want to approve this budget,
I'm very willing to come back with the meeting.
Fire.
Sure, outside of this unappropriated fund question about how to. And it seems to me that it's a structural thing, as to how it's reported, right? Or how
It's more about openness and just understanding of the numbers. I actually agree with Laura, this should be the final document. I just don't, I feel like there's missing information from a budget committee perspective.
Is there anybody else that feels there's missing information from a budget?
Because I came late, I think it's important for me to say, let's have another meeting.
Because we can digest more of the information. You guys have asked a lot of really good questions and got some answers, but I think that as you look through it, there's gonna be more that you're thinking about, and instead of, we're just going a long time.
It's a pretty serious document, just
Yes,
review in 2 hours
Decide.
and,
correct, I agree.
and I'd like to understand a little more.
I do have one thing to bring up, I can't in good conscience vote for this, even though I probably would agree with the document if I saw the million numbers, without that working column there. Is there anybody else that feels that way, or will we benefit, or are you good with this document as is, when we come back to the next meeting?
Make a motion.
I move that we accept this document as the working document.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Missing one of your board members.
Yeah, let's wait.
I got a quick question, Morley. If you do the document version like Jeremy wants or would like, is that gonna cause a problem with the auditing? Is that gonna cause a
Well,
problem with the
it's-
state?
It's more of just, I could just pull numbers completely out of thin air and say, well, I think we're gonna have this 50,000 of actual carryover left over from everything. And I'm gonna put 10,000 here, or 10,000 here, or 20 here, or 5 here. I mean, it's completely. I mean, I am saying how I'm gonna spend all of the money. So.
All of the revenue, we just had maintained a carryover over these several years now. That's, it allows them to get in balance to pay bills until
Right,
taxes.
right, but again, I don't know what the actual money is until January. So for me to just arbitrarily just throw some numbers, it's just completely meaningless.
So
Well, I have a quick question.
So the format that's in the budget required by law. I'll read from ORS. The detailed sheets, just 4, 5, 6, 7, all the detailed sheets, must show the actual expenditures or resources for T2 fiscal years. That's ORS 294376. The columns on the left are audited data. They were required to provide the current budget, which is what we're in the fiscal year right now, and then the proposed budget. And there's 2 additional columns, which are the approved budgets, any changes between proposed and approved, and the final adopted. So that's required. As far as the beginning fund balance, it's required to be reported like this. Now, I get the point. Point probably, I'll paraphrase. In fund government accounting, you're looking at that $400,000, and that's your ending fund balance from the prior year becomes your revenue for the next year. Okay. Is there anything like that? You're looking at that, like stating, that's not going to be reported as revenue, but it's indicated under GAAP rules, which you're required to follow, it's reported as a revenue source. And so I think maybe there's, as a kind of compromise, there might be a separate report or something we can pull, some data we can do. But as far as this document goes, you got to be in compliance with global budget law.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at it from how do we solve the problem? I get where you're coming from, but I think it's not going to be in this document.
Yeah, agree.
And I agree with you. But it could be, we're gonna do a separate working document. This document is as for what we want to say.
It's like no report, an addendum. Well, under that, you know, it's an internal part.
It's just a working document.
And all that would be is, here's your back flow. You got $800,000 coming in, you got $800,000 going out, you got $400,000 inside. I mean, it's would be as simple as that. In my mind, because you could easily show, well, in your cash flow, you do by month, or I'd be happy to help develop something like that, if that's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I did kind of, so we have a few things that we just did. Some of us are concerned and think a second meeting would be appropriate. Lori made a motion to accept the document as is, Peg was gone, so we didn't, we sort of voted, but we didn't, but I don't know if Lynn and Mike understand what's happening.
They do.
Okay.
Yep.
I made a motion that we continue this process using this working document. And then have a
Wait.
discussion.
So does your motion mean we can't have another meeting, or you're saying? we're
No,
approving
I'm
it?
not
Okay.
ruling out another meeting.
Okay.
I'm ruling out making Laura Lee create another document to help visualize something that is kind of nebulous right now. You are doing the estimating. Now, when we have our audit, correct me if I'm wrong, when we do get the audit the first of the year, at that point, we know what was left over. And a decisions are made where to put that, in what account will that go? A savings, the governmental fund. Is that about correct or not?
So I'm going, I heard that motion, and I'm going to second it. That Mark.
Who seconded it already?
Oh, Mark.
We need, wait,
I didn't hear it.
we need to clarify the motion, because what I have understood before was to accept the budget document as is, which is what I've typed to Mike and Lynn. Approve, yes.
Yeah.
What accept was the word that I heard, so that's what I typed, so clarify any motion that needs voting, please.
My motion was simply intended to continue trying to understand the concepts that are put forward in this document here. Another meeting would be fine, because I think these discussions are robust and healthy.
Yeah, we don't need a motion right now, we're just gonna carry this over.
So just table the.
Table until next month.
Okay.
Okay.
Because that's the vote,
That's fine.
right, that's the vote of acceptance, so.
We're seeking,
I thought we were adopting this as a budget. But,
So you were looking for the actual vote.
yeah, that's what I thought I heard her in the second, was that we were adopting this budget. Now, if there's a motion to table the document and go for another meeting to discuss it further after review. Somebody can, that will show
The general consensus is everybody wants.
should be, the motion was made, it was seconded, so I guess we should go forward.
They wouldn't make.
They are the, but they are.
All the. Oh, I'm talking about the.
Yeah, we adopted.
And maybe the two people who are on Zoom could be with us for that second meeting.
So is there a motion?
I'm taking. Okay, just a point of clarification. Our June budget hearing takes place during the June board meeting. And we have like the two simultaneous things going on, the budget hearing and then the regular board meeting. And that would be June 17th, Monday, June 17th. So either we take another date to discuss just the budget, or we do that at that meeting, or before that meeting. And that budget hearing is, tell us what happens at the budget hearing. Basically, the approved budget then is, yeah, by the budget committee or by the board. By the board. Right, but the board has to still adopt the budget without the budget committee. There's still a second. Well, usually the budget committee tonight approves the budget, and then it gets sent up to the board to adopt. And then the next month, then in June, we open up the meeting, open up the public comment, but nobody ever comes to the budget hearing. And then they close the budget hearing, and then they adopt the budget. So you're saying the budget hearing is only the 5 board members, not the 10? Usually, yeah. Okay, so that was what I.
Right, I thought we had to vote on it. Then.
usually,
You get the same place.
usually at this meeting, the whole committee, budget committee, which there's 10, okay? They either approve the budget or they don't approve the budget, they do another meeting, or, that's the three things. Either they approve it, or they have another meeting, and in years past, like usually it's because there's math errors or something.
Last 2 years I've been on this committee, we approved it at this meeting.
Right,
And
yes,
it went to the board for the final,
right.
you know.
It's only the first time I'm coming in, right?
You have to publish the final numbers prior to.
Right,
So
right, so that's.
what happens is once the final budget is approved, the proposed budget is approved by this committee, Worley then publishes that information, that goes into that meeting.
Right, right, and going back to advertising, I have to put those numbers out there, so we can't just save this for that June meeting.
No, but can't we do it next week? Just so it's not so far out that we haven't thought about it, that it gives us 5 days and we do it next week on Wednesday or whatever day, I'm just saying Wednesday.
That meeting also has to be public. It has to be,
And that's,
there has to be 5 days notification.
Yes, so I would have to publish it basically tomorrow.
right. So we have time to do that.
So far, we haven't heard one thing, because you spend a lot of time, with your operational.
I mean,
Well, that's what I was feeling, I mean,
I'm not,
It's hard.
like, if I come back with a question, it's going. So is it even worth having? This is your operational budget, it doesn't include renovation. There's no benefit to try to skinny this down, because money's not gonna offset the benefit.
and we talked about an internal document being created to deal with this carryover.
which that could then be presented every month at our normal, finance.
Unless there's additional questions that some of the members here have around this budget, they want something changed about the budget. I mean, if there's more, like, you wanna think about it more, you're not sure, you agree with something on it, you want something changed, in how the document is laid out, or what the information is in the document. I'm not exactly sure, in our discussions for 2 hours, I didn't hear anything that we're taking out. I didn't hear anything.
Because there was an answer.
We were asking.
It's not going to be sarcastic, but there's an answer for everything, so.
We were asking to put things in, but, we weren't really talking about taking anything out.
Well, I mean, again, if I'm doing my job right, like, everybody should have a thorough understanding of where everything is being allocated and how I'm coming up with that, and why I'm coming up with that. Why it's more or less than in years past. I mean, if I've done my homework enough, then everybody should have all those answers.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor, and from now, I'm going to withdraw it.
Well, we have the original one when you were after.
Why don't you call for a motion to see who would approve it right now?
I move that we approve this budget to be.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Lynn and
Aye.
Mike says aye.
Mike says aye.
Lynn, you need to verbally say aye.
Well,
There's
what was the motion?
to approve the budget as is.
Oh, yes, I vote to accept the budget as is.
So that's
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 yeas, 3 nays.
Well, I think I am.
Excellent. The motion is passed, the budget is adopted, approved, and will be sent to the board for adoption after the next June meeting.
Number what?
Prepare internal document to deal with that unappropriated fund and put that release, how that money is to be used or targeted.
Hey, yeah, can I ask separately? Is the fundraising committee vision published?
So, one second. So Lori has a space on the agenda for the next meeting, and you guys are here where that's covered. So can we adjourn this meeting?
Well, hold
And-
on. We need to make a motion to approve the tax rate at 24 cents.
I just, no, I'm good with what you need.
Is there a motion to approve the tax rate 24 cents? Motion, second.
Can I make a quick statement before we approve it?
Is there a
No.
discussion?
I would just like to make a clarification for the public about this, because I saw a school board meeting do this without understanding what was happening, and it made me nervous. So this 24 cents is not something we have any control over. This is kind of I don't know if it's not, what's a better word for this? This is just something we're going through because the state ordered us to do it. This is not anything in our control to go up or down.
And even if we voted no,
If the state orders us to do it, let's do it.
Right, we can't vote it down,
Okay.
we can vote it up.
All in favor, say
Not
Aye.
yay. I assume everyone's up on it. Yeah, okay.
that was
motion to adjourn the budget meeting.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
No, wait a minute.
Forgot.
Thank you. I apologize if we kept it longer because of our question.
It was rich and good, and I hope I see it.
Bring on our new meeting, because I think Lori's actually thinking of the
The whole concern is to keep everybody, so.
Thank you.
Are we ready to move ahead?
Not quite yet. I'm passing them around.
I would love one. Thank you. Did you make these?
They're Costco.
Oh.
More
custom.
One.
So you guys can go if you want, and then we move into a regular board meeting.
Okay.
Well, it looked like you guys were handing out cookies and I didn't get a cookie.
Well, you should have come. Look at that cookie, Mike.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
See what happens
okay.
when you go on vacation, you don't get cookies.
I know. All right. Well, thank you. And was there going to be another meeting?
There's the regular board meeting is following this, and then
Yep.
the budget hearing will be on June 17th at the pool.
Okay. Gotcha.
Mikey can have a cookie if he can reach for it.
We'll hold it right
Oh man. Oh, you're teasing me. Stop. All right. Have a good night.
there. It's already gone. But it's like,
See you later.
It's 9 o'clock here. It's
Have a
20
great
after 9 here. I need to get to bed.
okay, good night, Mike. Thank you.
Bye bye. Oh.
Two different directors.
Roll call, Jeremy. Here, here, Kim,
Here.
Lori,
Here.
hey,
Here.
Orly,
Yes.
Jill.
He's here.
Okay. Do we, have we looked over April minutes?
Yes.
So we
I'll
need
make a
to,
motion to approve April's minutes.
Seconded.
so all in favor? Okay.
We did.
Can I get trust back up a second?
Okay, so we just did the roll call, order, since we did the flag already, it's the same thing, none of us have to, we're still. After all that.
Okay. I know the case, I can find. Yeah, for the minutes, for the minutes.
Okay, so minutes have been approved. Okay, so let's just. Table everything, but we'll let Lori do the.
Okay. I'll be brief, but what we have focused on meeting every week for the last month, and was to pull off our first event, Splash for Cash. We had a pretty good turnout. And always with what we're doing, we hope to build, learn, do better, listen to people. I talked with, I believe, everybody that was participating, and, what's that?
Oh,
We
no,
went over that.
we did.
We're at 12?
We are at, with the people that reported their pledge amounts. I know that there are maybe one or two more people that have sheets that have not presented. So with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 swimmers that we have, the current projected pledge amount is $12,361.
And I still have money coming in checks in the mail. So,
$12,361. With, there were pledges made today even, so people are still wanting to pledge for it. Yes. So, and yeah, these are pledges, not payments, so.
well, our plan with the money is to put it into the, building improvement, funds. But we also, plan to use some of this money for advertising. The advertising money, we've been doing this on a wing and a prayer. And we got a healthy amount of donated refreshments from enthusiastic bakeries, coffee house. It was really amazing to hear the support that's out there for the community, for our pool. I don't mean for the community, from the community. I went to the wellness fair that Lebanon had, like last week, and met and talked with people and brought interest, to what we're doing, people who want to help. And we do have other ideas. Our next announced project will be the end of summer carnival in August 24th. But that doesn't mean we're gonna just not do anything in between. So we will have a meeting shortly, our post-event meeting. Still to be determined, but we're narrowing it down in the next week or so. And we plan to send thank you letters to all the donors. Yes.
I just want to make a comment, Darla, that they're posting the agendas for the fundraiser meetings, like they're always up on the window at the pool, and we're putting them on our website.
Oh, thank you.
So,
Yes, I do. It is, yeah, thanks, Jeremy.
and they are open meetings, for anybody.
So the minutes of what's being discussed. Okay.
Now, another thing I'd like you to be aware of, and anybody should, is that, as far as our long-term future, we do want this fundraising to always be a part. Friends of the Lebanon Pool.
I like that.
We have begun the process to make ourselves into a nonprofit 501c3 foundation. And our purpose will be to improve, build, promote, yes. We will, the purpose of our nonprofit will primarily be to put that money that is not needed for our advertising, our yard signs, posters, what have you. It will be channeled to the building fund of the pool. Rose.
And it's the,
Oh, I was just going to mention that we're kind of modeling this after the Friends of the Malala Pool and other organizations where they have a 501c3 fundraising organization that is simply to fundraise money, which also enables us to go after grants that we are currently unable to go after, bigger dollar amount grants that we can't go after because we're not a 501c3. And the object is to funnel that money into the PEP fund for the pool.
Okay. I was just gonna add, enhance that by saying that there are more avenues open to us by becoming this nonprofit. We have already, got a draft of bylaws. We have our name. The domain name is available, so we will create a website and get an ability to put out our projects online. A lot of people ask for online sign-in, you know, can we sign up online? And I just have to say, we're just relatively out of the gate right now, but the big dream is to raise the $500,000 by December. You think we can do it? I don't know.
So
But-
the Friends of the Malala Pool, they have a board. So you guys are gonna have a board, are
Yes.
those board members elected or are they appointed?
It's a 501c3, so they're appointed, yeah.
Appointed?
And they will require a president, a treasurer, a secretary, minimum of 5. It can be bigger than that, but it'll be a board of 5.
And we have several people that are already willing to step in because when we officially become a 501c3, you have to become a 501c3 with board members already in place. And board members for a 501c3 like that organization do not need to be within Lebanon. They do not even need to be within the state of Oregon for a 501c3.
We're excited.
So those funds would be transferred to the pool as a donation from the 501c3.
That will be the simplest way. I've already, I worked out with the bookkeeper. I spoke to the bookkeeper, the auditor, special districts attorney, Laura Lee, Jill, and others to understand how we handle, we're gonna get money coming in. What are we allowed to use that to pay for? Yes.
I just want to throw this out here too. So, I mean, just being super honest, there is positive and negatives to having a fundraising arm. Okay, it's like the hospital has Samaritan Foundation, right? I mean, there are pluses and minuses, right? Now, I mean, there's going to be some costs associated with that, okay? And then also, one of the negatives could be is that then you've got this funding avenue arm that then they're trying to really steer the ship. And then the ship might be like, well, you know, they might you can just imagine that, you know, you might have a whole different board that, oh, you need to build this or you need to do that, but that's maybe not what the goal is.
That's why I was asking whose vision.
Well,
right?
It's
So
gonna be problematic, but another option, instead of going the 501c3 route, is that you create a special fund.
Yeah.
Just like the swim club special fund, right? Which down the road, I mean, my goal eventually is to have the club become a 501c3 and be their own autonomous organization, and then LAD is not subsidizing that, okay? Because as much as they try to be a balanced budget, if they get to where they're not meeting their needs or their bills, we come in, exactly. Okay, and when they can't pay payroll, LAB is paying their payroll, okay? And so they have a new parent board and they have a club president now that she's actually a president of another organization in town, like a 501c. And so she totally gets that that would be very beneficial to the month. And so her and I are gonna come up with a plan. So for this next year, that's our goal, is to basically next year then, LAD would not be subsidizing a swim team. And so we could turn that special fund into this. Okay, so just like with our budget or special fund, you have incomes and you have outgoes. Okay, so we could do something like that. Now, we still wouldn't then get some of these grants that, you know, are only for 501c3s. But, I mean, that is another way we could still do what you guys want to do.
Who would offset the tax. Because one of the risks of the 501c3, which I mentioned to Rose, there's some conflict of interest of having board members of both organizations, so, yeah.
That was the goal with it, is that board members on the LAD board would be ineligible to be on the 501c3.
And the type of organization that we are, that may already be the case.
Yeah, so we're
pretty close.
And we're looking at a lawyer, because, I mean, as to whether or not, I mean, I'm happy to continue working for it, but I was like, if we need a board member position to fill, I'd be happy to do that. But if it's a conflict of interest for me to be working at the pool and doing that, then obviously I wouldn't step forward to do that.
Storm, right? Got it at both ends. Board member
Yeah.
do a 501c3, which is not typical of a government.
Yeah.
Right, when you look at how the library runs, the money goes to the city, it comes back from the city to the library, but so they've managed to avoid it that much, but we don't really have that umbrella. So, yeah, I would think you're on to something really should get looked at. And you do lose
Well,
the opportunity with the 501c3 going away, but you also miss, there's other examples in town of organizations who started out strong, changed membership, didn't pay their taxes.
Right.
Now there's all kinds of complications with that.
Whereas a special fund, I mean, you know,
The pool manager.
we could still be doing that. And we kind of do that with the reserve fund. It's just the reserve fund is not just dedicated to pool renovations. I mean, it could be, oh, we need a new boiler, so we'll use reserve fund money. Or we could just make another special fund that's only for pool renovations.
It's just something, there's lots of ways to get there.
Well, we are hammering our way through and, really, I've been, swimming down.
Yeah. Just keep swimming.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is there a downside to today's environment where someone donates to the pool that they can't get a tax write-off?
No, they can.
Oh.
I have no tax deductible.
So there's no real downside.
The only thing is there are some grants that foundations put out.
Right, that have that requirement.
That we can't,
But as individuals.
yeah, no, it's all tax
Yeah.
deductible.
I was gonna say, because otherwise, people are writing it off, you shouldn't.
Okay.
I'm done.
So that's 40.2, 40.3, we'll table till next time.
Yeah, I can get out of your way.
So 50.1, do you want to get it to that tonight?
Yeah, no, we can table that.
Okay, table that.
Rose told me.
We need to get into financials, just want to give us highlights.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I can just basically and I think everybody got the stuff from Tina. Yeah, actually, I think we're doing pretty well. We have, let's see, so right now there's, 453,000 in change in the LGIP. So, yeah, which again, like it's gonna go down before it goes back up. And then as far as like our income, even though we were closed for a week in March and then a week in April, I still was pretty pleased with our total program revenue. For April, we brought in almost 15,000. And most of that was, we still sold lessons, even for those 2 weeks that we were closed, we were, taking things from the truck. So that was nice. And then, on our expenses, so the capital. Let's see. Okay, so I had told the foresters what the cost of the board was. So if you see where it says other equipment is minus $3.36, that's basically the diving board went out as an expense, but then they paid more than it was actually, yeah. So that's why we have that minus $3. It's not like a negative $3. It means that we have $3.36 extra in that category. So it's gonna look funny, basically, for the end of the year.
I just want to say thank you for.
Yeah, and thank you, Doctor, for all your questions too.
Yeah, thank you very much. You guys do good stuff.
Thanks, Darrell.
See you soon.
Hey, Darrell, I'm still like this on the morning sometime.
Well, I got one.
Oh.
Details.
For our equal pay, so we're looking at them, because of the boiler cost, this would be the month that we spent more than our annual income. Second, right?
Well, there's a couple months, I think, that we spend more than our actual. Like September, you believe we spend more than our actual income.
Throughout the year, we have income, we have income, we start to spend it down. Normally we have extra, but because of that boiler, we crossed over this month, we're gonna have a couple of months where.
Well,
boiler will be low.
Yeah, but there's quite a few months in the whole year where we actually spend more than we bring in. So it's just, kind of.
Right, the difference for this year is I'm not expecting us to get any other income to offset that, because of one of our large, saving for.
Yeah, unless there's some, I don't know, big donation or kickback or something that I don't know about. But yeah, because if you look at our total expense for April was 43,000, but yet our total income was 20,000. So we basically spent almost double what we brought, actually a little bit more. So, yep, and so, and all of the bills for the boiler stuff has all been paid. So there was the actual boiler, there was the heat coil, the final bill for that came in, and then when we were replacing the boiler, I think I shared this at the last meeting. There was a gas leak that they found. And so then that was a little bit extra because they had to repair some pipe that was not in the big. So, and then also one of the water circulation pumps in the boiler room, we had to take it down and refurbish it or whatever. And so there was a few extra things involved. So that all got paid. And the other thing is that we were having issues with the controller and the boiler talking correctly. And anyways, it was all messed up and the boiler people were in several different times. We had NCC down to go through the controls and there still was a problem. But luckily, somebody who was pretty smart came in and saw that the ground wires were reversed. And they were like, oh, here's your problem right here. And then Jim was like, well, I gotta call the boiler people. And this person was like, just give me a screwdriver and I'll fix it. And so then they swapped the wires around and voila, now everything's talking to each other. And so that saved us a bunch. So
What did that cost us?
I got a phone number.
nothing, yeah. Anyway, so that was great. And then, let's see, I wrote a few things down. Yeah, so the boiler issue is finally all dialed in. Oh,
What was the total on that, like 80?
well, it was like 88,000 and change, but then that extra little thing was like another 1,500 or
How
so.
close to that, what did that end up being our estimate?
What's that?
How close did that end up being the estimate, Tom?
Oh, the estimate was right on, it's just the extra was a little bit more. And then the coil thing, that was like another 3,500 or 3,400. Anyways, but we still have plenty of money in our maintenance budget. So, cause we transferred extra money over there, cause the way this year was going. So I think we're gonna finish off the year with plenty of money in there. And then another thing that was a surprise was, I had been in Rotary up until just this last, like 2 years ago, I got out of Rotary, but, there's a woman in Rotary, she doesn't even live in Lebanon anymore, she lives in Corvallis. But a year ago, she sent me $100, and she was like, here, this is to the pool, just, put it toward the pool, make her pool renovation thing. So I'm like, wow, great, Well, so after our last board meeting, I got a card in the mail from her. And I thought, what, why is she mailing me? So I opened it up, and there's a check for $500 in there to the pool renovation thing with a little Post-it note that said, Laura, here's your part for my kicker. And put it, and again, like this person is, she lives in Corvallis. But she loves the pool and, wants to see us continue. So that's an extra $500 that went right into that pet fund that I had no idea about. And then of course the diving board was completely unexpected, and that was great. So anyway, so that's basically all I had on my direct report.
Remarks for any of us?
Yes.
Yes.
Last week I turned 85.
Happy birthday.
And with that, I'm going to let you know that I am going to retire as of the July meeting. Wow. Okay. Yep. Oh. Huh?
So the next holiday, what's your next holiday gonna be?
I'm going to be at the pool all the time.
Were you there already?
I'm just all the time. Yeah.
There, girl. Well, I think.
I also want to comment, Rose and Lori didn't say anything, but between the three of us, we brought in over 8,000 of that $12,000.
Nice. Yeah, we did. And Peg was the ironer.
Not I,
Yes, you did.
4,575.
Incredible.
What does that mean for us?
Just like with the budget committee, we have that application form and we put it out on the website, and we can even put an ad in the paper, and that you guys need to decide how long you want to accept applications, and then people fill out applications, get it to us in the deadline, and then I get it to you guys, and then you guys,
I was interviewed.
yeah. And
So does that mean that you're done, this is your last meeting, or the July meeting is yours?
July meeting is mine. I'm announcing it now.
Okay,
So people are aware.
okay, so July meeting.
I decided my birthday was a good time.
So we can,
Right on back.
no kidding. So what do we need? So we probably should, we can put out the request for applications before, do we have to wait until she's completely finished?
No, I would say we post it now, because we know that you're gonna need to appoint a new person. New director
Okay,
for the August meeting, if you're gonna,
Yeah, well, I said July, but it depends on what works.
yeah. And then you just, interview and then appoint, and then that person then fills out the rest of her term. And then they would run for reelection if they wanted to continue then next year.
So if I finish my term and ran again, I'd be 90.
You are amazing.
geez, you could almost be in Congress.
You're better.
Or a Supreme Court justice.
Okay, any other remarks?
I am adjourned.
Yeah, okay, wait, just clarification, like, do you guys, well, we can just advertise and then take applications like through, well, you should pick a date though.
Like, can we just see at the July meeting what we have and then decide how much longer we want to go and the date that we
Could
will
you
have
have
it
it
put
at
on?
the June meeting?
Oh, June, that's what I meant June, I'm so sorry.
June, we can all go over the applications.
And decide if we want to go
Extend
longer.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
if we're, if we have two people, we think that maybe, you know, 5 would be a nice number, we're just throwing out numbers.
Right.
So we'll go a little bit longer. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, and we have that application already up on the website.
Right.
So if you post it on the website, post it, you know, put a word about in the paper or whatever, or on Facebook or.
Okay.
Turn out, so, all in favor?
I.
I think I.